When the loaf starts getting cut into before I ever get to do a video, that's when you know everyone's excited to take a bite of it. And this is our pumpkin spice sourdough bread. You can come and mix it up with me, fill your house with just the most delicious scent. Here's the cool thing. It does have pumpkin puree in it. It does have pumpkin spice in it, but it's not overly sweet and it's not overly spiced. It's a very mild sweetness, just this hint of spice, which we really love. So let's go bake together. The full recipe is down in the description below, so you can pull that up and then we can just bake along together. Now, I fed my starter earlier this morning, and so it had been rising in a warm spot. I popped it into the oven for about 4 hours so that it was nice and warm, about 65 to 70 degrees, because you want it to be nice and bubbly. We are mixing up dough, so we want that starter to already be activated. If you are confused about whether or not your starter is ready, check down in the description below because there's a great link down there. I'll show you how you know if your starter is ready. But I like to get the fed starter or the leaven and the water mixed up together first. This makes it so much easier for the rest of the ingredients to get incorporated. And next we're gonna add in our pumpkin puree. And I get just a big can of it from the store and I keep it in the fridge for all of the different pumpkin baking. Every time I add another element into my bowl, I actually tare the scale so that it's zeroed out. And the only thing I am actually worrying about the weight is that one element. After you get your pumpkin puree mixed in, add in your brown sugar. This gives just the slightest bit of sweetness. It's not very strong, just a little bit. And I love using the Danish dough whisk to get everything mixed together because it just does such a good job getting everything incorporated. Now we're gonna add in our pumpkin pie spice blend, or a lot of times it's pumpkin spice blend. You can make your own spice blend, and I'll put that little link down below too, but get those spices incorporated in with the brown sugar because now we're on to our flour. We're just gonna pour that in. I do think that this recipe works best with bread flour because the pumpkin puree is a little bit heavy, and I think that the dough needs that extra oomph from the bread flour to give it a really good rise. If you don't have bread flour, it's okay. What I would say is if you're using an all-purpose flour, omit like 20 grams of water so that your bread is not too dense. So if you're using just an all-purpose flour, omit 20 grams of the water. If you're able to use bread flour, just follow the recipe to a T, and it's down in the description. I like to get this part all mixed up first. You'll see we didn't add any of the salt yet, and that is on purpose because we want the flour to be able to have a chance to fully hydrate. And when the salt is in the dough to begin with, it actually inhibits your flour from soaking up all of the moisture. It changes the way your bread tastes. It changes the texture. So wait on that salt. Get your dough all mixed up like this. It's still gonna feel just a little bit sticky. That's okay. That's gonna get soaked up as it all sits together and rests. Now that it's mixed up, pop it back on the scale, and we're just gonna shake that salt straight over the top, measuring the weight of it as we go, but don't mix the salt in yet. We just want the salt to rest on top while our dough is resting for about 30 minutes. And then we're gonna go into the stretch and fold process. I know it seems so silly. Why would it make that much of a difference to just have the salt resting on top and not mixed in? But I promise it changes the texture and flavor of your bread. You're gonna be so much happier with it. This actually is the same method that I do for my everyday dough. I do it for any kind of sourdough dough that we're making so that flour has a chance to fully hydrate. And I'm going to put a link to a video that I explain it a little bit more down below if you want to watch that. Now we're going to cover our bowl and we're going to let it rest for 30 minutes. And now this is the very first stretch and fold. So what I do is I push my fingers down into the dough so that the salt gets pushed down in. And then this first stretch and fold, I go around the bowl, Then I'm going to scrape it with my bowl scraper and go around one more time just to ensure that all of that salt has gotten incorporated. Then we're going to repeat this stretch and fold process 3 more times. So it ends up being a total of about 2 hours. So every 30 minutes, you're going to come back, you're going to do a stretch and fold, cover your bowl back up, set your timer for 30 minutes, and I just do that process until I've done 4 total stretch and folds. Now, if you have made our everyday dough, I want you to pay attention to this part of the steps for the pumpkin loaf because it's just slightly different. For this bread or this dough, I go through the whole stretch and fold process, and then I actually shape the loaf right then and put it into the Banneton basket, and then it goes into the fridge in the basket because it's going to proof in that basket at least overnight, but it can actually stay in your fridge for several days and it's going to be okay. So that the dough doesn't stick to my hands, I always keep a bowl of water next to me while I'm working. And you can see that I actually put water on the counter before I started working with the dough. If your house is warm, your kitchen is warm, the dough can get a little bit sticky and a little bit harder to work with. It was a little bit cool the day that I was working with this dough, so it wasn't being super sticky, but use the water, use that bowl of water to your advantage so that the dough is not sticky to you or the counter. Then we want our dough to be in a nice shape. It's gonna start to like expand and open up in the basket. That's okay. But this has given it its shaping. This creates some of that tension, and you want to make sure that you have floured your Banneton basket really well. Then we're gonna cover it really well because we don't want it to dry out in the fridge. Now the dough needs to rest in the fridge overnight, or if you made it in the morning, let it rest all day long until you bake it in the evening. But here's the cool thing is that I've tested it. I've left this dough in my fridge for multiple days and it still bakes up the most delicious fluffy loaf. Now you can see when you take it out of the fridge, that dough is pretty firm to work with. That's normal. It gets like that when it's cold, not a problem. But don't start doing this step until you have preheated your oven to 450 degrees. Make sure your Dutch oven is in there while it's preheating because it's going to get hot and ready for your dough. Then I work with this dough cold. It doesn't have to sit at room temperature at all. It's already done all of that proofing and rising that it needs to do. So you take it out of the fridge cold, do that final shaping, turn it out onto your parchment paper, and then I just tuck it under a little bit so that it looks really symmetrical. And then it's ready for us to score and bake. Now, doing a nice deep long score on one side allows it to expand, and it's a really pretty loaf. And because it's a little bit richer and heartier because of the pumpkin in there, and it has all that pumpkin spice, it really lends itself to like you being creative. So do whatever design you want on the top. Now we're going to pop this straight into the oven. It's still very, very cold, which makes it easy to score, and it's going to cook in the oven for 30 minutes with the lid on, 20 minutes with it off, and you want to make sure the internal temperature is 200 degrees. If you don't hit that 200 degrees, the inside of your loaf has the tendency to be a little bit gummy. But if you get it just spot on, oh my, this is the most delicious loaf. Really great rise and texture, nice big pockets, but also not so big that you can't put jam or something on it. And I love to toast this up and put either our pear jam or pear honey or our plum butter. And I'm going to put the link to both of those recipes down in the description below. We love having you here in the kitchen with us. We're so happy to be cheering you on as you fill your table with the most delicious invitation to come and join you. I mean, look at this. Oh, so good. I thankfully got this video slicing it because everybody wanted to devour it so fast. I had to go grab it so that they wouldn't keep eating it. But this is a really fun one to add raisins into. If you want to do it, makes it kind of like a cinnamon raisin loaf with that hint of pumpkin. I'll put a link down below also for how we do any of those inclusions. And we're so glad that you're here baking with us. Come hang out more. There's a full playlist of sourdough goodness, all sorts of fun cooking classes. We love being in the garden and our orchard, and we love sharing about all of that goodness with you. So come hang out. We're glad you're here with us at Cider Press Lane.